Hey everybody, it's your Professor David Britt. Just wanted to welcome you to the final 2 weeks of servant leadership. It's taken us a while to get here, but to be honest with you, you have been studying servant leadership principles over the last few weeks. We just haven't called them that, and that's by design. So we're finally here in the last 2 weeks, Module 6 and Module 7. We're going to slap that word servant in front of leadership and have some discussions about that. If you think about what we've done over the last few weeks, we started off in the Blanchard book, Leading at a Higher Level, talking about the triple bottom line, and that is in modules 1 through 3, I think. 1 through 3, we talked about serving customers. We talked about serving employees, and then we talked about serving investors or investment of choice, which is really the people who are ponying up capital, if you will, for your business, and so those certainly have servant leadership aspects to them. We talked in module 4. We talked about coaching, and I think I sent something out to you all that told you my definition of coaching versus a trainer. A trainer is this expert newbie, if you will, who are trying to get to a particular principle. Versus a coach is somebody who walks alongside of you and you get the feeling that you're on the same team. So the whole idea of coaching, to me, is a servant leadership principle, much more than what we would understand in traditional training. And then this past week, we talked about change management. And can you imagine any other situation in organizations when servant leadership is more needed than during times of change? Those are the times when people have a tremendous amount of anxiety. And if you simply, as a leader, just present the change and then go on about your business and say, "Hey, they've got to adapt," then obviously you're not doing all you can do from a servant leadership perspective. And then this week we start talking about leadership point of view, and you have some internal biases. You have some internal biases that are created by your history, and the history that you have will be people who have connected with you either from a good perspective or from a poor perspective. I can give you chapter and verse of the leaders who I thought provided great foundational leadership and who I felt served me as an employee. And then I can provide you examples of people who did quite the opposite. And that happens not only in business, but it happens in your personal life. Perhaps you had a parent who was very good at serving, or perhaps you had one who was not. And those things stay with you, and they begin to frame up your ideas on what leadership is all about. And so this week, as we look at servant leadership, I want you to talk about your leadership point of view based upon those different areas, both personally, professionally, all three, and then spiritually as well. And then in Module 7 coming up, which is the last week of the course, we're going to take a gentleman by the name of Spears, who had 10 servant leadership characteristics that he identified. And all 10 of them are fabulous. And so servant leadership is certainly on trend now. I mean, you can see it in a lot of different areas. I know perhaps some of you thought that when we started this course, this was going to be a course on biblical principles of leadership. And certainly Jesus supplied many examples of how to serve other people. However, the principles that we have are not just resigned to those particular areas. And to be honest with you, sometimes in the church today, if you ask me if the churches are exhibiting servant leadership, I would have to give you an unabashed no, they are not. And so While there are good examples there, as there are good examples like Howard Schultz at Starbucks. I mean, there's several different videos I could have posted for you all that will give servant leadership characteristics. Serve first, right? Um, so they're all over the place, and so this is a much broader topic than one that um, has Christian attachment or Christian ownership to. Um, One of the videos that I've watched many times is a TED Talk by an author named Simon Sinek. Um, and I wrote this down because I wanted to catch it. Um, but he said this before, and to me, it's a really key foundational thing as you begin to look at leadership and servant leadership. He said, if you hire people because they can do a job, then they'll work for you for the money. But if you hire people who believe what you believe, then they'll work for you with their blood, sweat, and tears. And so I think that's pretty cool. And in order to do that, those people have to understand that you're serving a cause, you're serving an individual, you're serving a customer, you're serving all the triple bottom line plus more. Sinek also talked about leadership and used an analogy of being a parent. Now, for those of you who are parents, think of it this way. Have you had a boss before who you thought was a parent, not from um, any other relationship, that is like they felt responsible for you as an individual? You felt like the things that they told you they cared about, they were leading, they were guiding, they were directing. Um, Whenever there was an issue, and I talked about this in a prior lesson too, rather than looking out the window to cast blame, they looked in the mirror first. And so those are key characteristics of servant leadership. So what I wanted to do today was just kind of highlight where we've been along this pathway so far. And while we haven't used the word servant yet, as we are now in Module 6 and Module 7, nearly all of the things as I built this course had a foundation in servant leadership. I was just wanting to bring you along a pathway to say, yeah, those are good leadership principles. And then at the end you go, oh, those were servant leadership principles as well. Okay? I hope you have a good last couple of weeks, and look forward to reading your work, and then hopefully look forward to hearing and seeing examples of servant leadership in action by students. Take care.